Welcome back to another video series here with Discover Dunwoody. I am Mark Galvin, the Director of Marketing with Discover Dunwoody. And as you probably already know, we like to find great people to sit and have a conversation with. And this week, we are going to sit around and talk with Pat Pascarella, who is the owner of the Porchetta Group. And he is opening a restaurant here in Dunwoody called Grana. Pat, welcome. Glad you're here, man.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you.
So you just got off a plane from Connecticut.
Yeah, we went up and did a bunch of dinners, which was a lot of fun. My family still lives up there, so it's always nice to get up there and just go and visit people. So,
That's great.
yeah.
I bring this up because if he falls asleep in the interview, it's
That's
because
the
he's a little
reason.
tired.
Yeah, that's the reason.
A little worn out.
Definitely.
Well, listen, I am so glad you made time to sit down, come here and talk to us. You're opening a new restaurant in Dunwoody, but before we get to that restaurant, I'd love to tease out a little bit of your history.
For sure.
Because, folks, if you live here in Dunwoody, we're getting a great new restaurant over on Ashford Lane in Grana. But this guy has some great history that we want to talk about. Number one, why do you do what you do? You've got a little bit of family history and some other things going on
Yeah,
here.
so a lot of it's more like, to leave something for the kids, right? So like, I have a son that's 7, a daughter that's 4, and you want to always leave some sort of legacy for them. So it's like,
That's nice.
my son likes to eat all the food, my daughter likes to cook all the food. So it'll work out well later on.
It sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah, and plus I think my son will be a lawyer, and my daughter will be the chef, and he'll have to get her out of jail or out of trouble all the time because she's definitely going to be a problem.
All right, this is great fun. So, but that's not why, they're not the only reason. That you've got, I think I heard something about your mother and your grandmother, and there's some experiences that you had with Italian
Yeah,
food.
so my grandmother basically, she was the matriarch of the family, so everything revolved around the kitchen table, right? So growing up, base for tag was the kitchen table. So whenever we would playing tag and everything like that, base was always underneath the kitchen table.
Okay.
So that day, I was like 5.5, 6. That day, she was rolling gnocchi, and I go running because I was always the one that was it, or I was next. So I would run. I slid into the table and I hit the table, and a piece of gnocchi fell on the ground. But you're 5, so
Right.
I ate it. I'm
Right.
like, this got to be good, and it was delicious. But so now every time I do make gnocchi, I remember how great it tastes. But I always remember the smack I got over the side of the head by my grandmother for eating food off the
love
floor.
it.
But I mean, it's Grana we opened because White Bull was for me, right? I opened that restaurant for me, and
Okay.
I wanted to get my name out there. Grana I opened for the moms, for like my mom and my grandmother. Like they're
Got
the
it.
ones that I always hung around with because I wanted to learn all that stuff. I learned how to make bread when I was 7.
Wow.
I mean, just meatballs when I was 8 or 9. It was just, you just always learned.
Okay, I got 2 questions for
Yeah.
you. Number one is, gnocchi is rolled and then cut?
Yes, rolled and then cut.
And it's potatoes, right?
Potato or ricotta. So like
Okay.
we do both. Unless you go the French route, which I'm not a huge fan of the French, but they do the Parisian gnocchi, which they basically make a pâte de choux and then they cut it into boiling water and then fry it in a pan afterwards.
Okay, so first of all, we need to get a French restaurant opening across from Grana, right?
I'll just chuck regular gnocchi at them all day.
Stick it on the windows, right? But that's really interesting, and gnocchi is one of those greatest things. I remember when my wife and I lived in San Francisco, and there was a restaurant that had great gnocchi, and it's hard, right? It's not
It's not
something
easy.
that,
To get light and fluffy, it's very hard. Takes a
Wow.
long time.
well, that's really cool. Okay, so gnocchi was my first question. The other one was, you mentioned the White Bull. Tell me about that restaurant. Where is it?
So it's in Decatur. The White Bull we opened. That's the only restaurant that we didn't name an Italian name. So growing up, my favorite author was Hemingway.
Okay.
And every time before he wrote on a brand new piece of paper, he called the paper the White Bull because he was terrified of it, but also it was fun. And that was like, it's my first restaurant in Atlanta, so it was terrifying, Like
Sure.
I didn't know anyone. Nobody should have given me any time of day. And then 6 months after, we won Best New Restaurant in Atlanta, so it just took off after that.
So impressive. And you also told me before we taped, the spot you're in Decatur had restaurant. It was basically a revolving door of restaurants.
17 restaurants in 20 years.
17 restaurants in 20 years. That probably would have talked me out of putting a restaurant
Well,
there.
it was funny. So every time, you would run into restaurateurs or you'd run into guests walking on the street, and they would always be like, "That place is cursed. You'll be out of business in 6
That's right.
months." So every year on the anniversary, I said, "Remember when you told me I was supposed to be closed in 6 months? Well, now it's year 5. We're about to hit year 5 in 3 days."
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations
Thank you very
for
much.
that. So what's really interesting to me is opening a restaurant as a banker. When you go for a loan, bankers say, "Yeah, we don't do restaurants."
Yeah.
How did you overcome that with your first restaurant in Atlanta?
Well, I didn't go to a bank. So I sold my restaurant in Connecticut, and
So how many restaurants did you have in Connecticut?
I was down to one. I sold everything else.
All right.
So I sold my last restaurant in Connecticut for $75,000 up front and $275,000 over 5 years. Well, the minute I sold, I never saw another penny. He went bankrupt, and I never got anything out of the deal. So I got screwed out of $275K. So I took the $75,000. I went to the White Bull. I started doing construction and quickly ran out of money. Right.
Sure.
So I then opened 6 American Express credit cards.
Oh
and
my gosh.
Racked up $210,000 in credit card debt within.
I'm getting heartburn just hearing this.
4 months, and it was bad because I had an 805 credit score. An 805 drops like a 515 within 2 months. They were coming to get my car. It was really bad for a little while. And then we opened, and we got the restaurant open, and it was 7 days a week, 100 hours a week for 6 to 9 months. And then my daughter was born, which was really hard to figure that out. And then I had to take a little bit, so I took a day off then. And then it just got a little bit easier. I mean, we won Best New Restaurant, and it got busier and busier and busier. We paid everything back. So it's been good since, but it was definitely rough for the first year. I didn't COVID
So, entrepreneurs out there, don't do that.
no, don't do that.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
The risk that you took on. And did you ever have a doubt that?
No. So people always ask me the question like, how do you know that restaurant's not going to fail? I'm a big guy, and I throw a lot on my shoulders, and I feel like I can take it pretty far on my own. And I never really get worried about opening restaurants, even if like they don't open successfully. Like Bastone didn't open correctly, in my opinion, and it definitely took a turn for the worse for like 3 or 4 months in. But then I fired everyone and took over as a chef and started from scratch, and I built it up to
Holy moly.
a beast of a restaurant now. So.
Okay, now there's a couple things there are lots of topics here. I am so sorry we only have 20
You're
minutes.
good.
You go from being a chef to a business person, right? You just said a very business-like thing. I just got rid of the staff. That's, I mean, that creates agita. That's
Oh, yeah.
difficult. And I would say that, a chef knows how to make great food. How'd you go from being a chef to a business person?
I mean, it's hard, right? So like when you're, first of all, my staff hates when I'm in the restaurant, right? Because I just give shit away for free because I want people to taste everything, so that's not good for their P&L, and they get bonus off their P&L.
Right.
So they hate me when I walk in.
Sure.
But I also want people to experience this. Like I'm very, very emotional when it comes to food, and like I want to make sure everybody's tasting everything, and it's important to me. And I want to make sure that people are understanding, what it is that we're trying to accomplish, right? Because like this style of restaurants that we have, they don't exist in Atlanta. Carrabba's and Olive Garden were the top Italian restaurants in Atlanta for a long time, and now you're trying to introduce 100% Italian wine lists and all that stuff. So it's definitely hard. But going from a chef to a restaurateur, I was supposed to be an accountant, right? So like I was supposed to be an accountant.
You kind of got a numbers mind.
I have a huge numbers mind. I spit off numbers pretty fast sometimes, and my staff despises that for it. But but I also know where like you buy whole fish instead of fillet, because then you can sell collars and cheeks, and then you can take the bones and make a stock out of it. So it's just over the years of working for some pretty badass chefs, you kind of learn like, hey man, the only way you're going to be successful or make money, it's not off the 6-ounce piece of fish. It's actually off the cheeks and the collars and the bones, and that's how you really make money. So it's definitely
So when I hear food costs, right? You're driving food costs down because you're using everything that comes in the door.
Yeah, if I could find a way to use the scales, I would.
Wow, that's awesome. All right.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's really interesting because there's a lot of people that love to cook, and cooks don't typically make good business people.
No.
They typically have to find somebody they can partner with that can do that business piece, but you're checking all those boxes.
Yeah, and my business partner is also big in business-wise. He owned a bunch of Moe's Southwest Grill locations.
Okay.
He's in the golf world as well, so he owns a golf course in Chestatee in Alpharetta, or outside of Alpharetta. So
good.
He's a big numbers guy too. So when we're in our room, we're just spitting numbers off often.
All right, good. I should have done this at the beginning. I did not name off all of the restaurants, and you've already started to weave some of them in, so you guys have heard this. So the group is the Porchetta Group.
Porchetta. Oh, you're good, man. You're doing great. You're doing great. You're good. You're good.
The Porchetta Group.
Yep.
And the restaurants you have are the White Bull, we've already talked about in Decatur, Grana, which is coming here, and you have, how many locations do you have with Grana?
We have one, Ashford Dunwoody. Ashford Lane's going to be 2, and then we announced Roswell the other day.
All right, so
it'll be
we'll have
3.
3 of those,
Yeah.
and then you've got Bastone.
Yep. Yeah.
What does that mean?
So Bastone
No,
is.
and give us the whole thing.
I will, I'll give you
Don't
the whole
cut
thing.
it. We'll
So-
beep it.
So so that Bastone is the ace of clubs in the Italian playing card deck. So it's a Neapolitan deck, and it's the ace of clubs, and it's literally just a club on a card. And my grandfather, it was his favorite card for no apparent reason. Like, it didn't really mean anything, and it had no numerical like huge value by any means. But every time he got that card, no matter whether it was like he just dealt it or whatever, he would always just get up and just slam the card down on the table. So it was my way of saying, hey boys, I'm in West Midtown now, so here, let me slam my card down in the middle of West Midtown. So
Bastone.
that's why the sign's so big too.
And it means what?
It's ace of clubs.
That's not what you said before the show, but it's all good. All right, and then we have one more, and it's Alici.
Alici, yep. And that means anchovy in Italian.
Oh, it does.
So it's a seafood restaurant where Trader Joe's is off Monroe.
All right,
in
good.
Midtown.
Only one Alici.
Only one Alici.
Chances of that expanding?
Sure. We've been looking. I mean, we have quite a bit. We can't really talk about, but we have quite a bit coming down the road within the next 2 to 3 years. So
Any other brands?
yeah, actually,
Okay.
Grana is the only duplicate. Everything else would be brand new restaurant groups,
All right.
restaurant names. So
Well, I love that you came here from Connecticut. You are now a local chef, creating local restaurants that are unique to Atlanta, and we love that. We love that you're opening one here at Dunwoody. Why Dunwoody? Why have you picked our community?
someone asked me this the other day, and I said, well, where do you go eat in Dunwoody? And now you come eat in my restaurant. So I looked at it as, you know, we specifically replaced Carrabba's. So it used to be a Carrabba's.
Yeah, there was.
And we
That's
did
right.
that. We did that on purpose. 'Cause
Are
we're
you in
like,
the same building as?
same exact building
Oh,
that
okay,
Carrabba's was
good.
in. And we did that on purpose because we wanted to just be like, hey guys, like, this is Italian food, and this is what you should be eating when you go out to eat, you know, and this is the style of Italian food that I grew up eating. You know, like, I tell people all the time, Grana is not authentic to Italy, it's authentic to me, right? This is the food I grew up eating. So, you know, you may have a chicken parmesan that doesn't exist in Italy, but existed on my plate in Stamford, Connecticut 20 years ago. So it's however we feel all day, whatever kind of Italian food we want to feel like we want to cook, but as long as it always shows respect to my mom and my grandmother.
I love that. So when I go to Grana, my first visit, what should I order?
First thing you always get is the meatball flight. So we have 6 meatballs.
Did you notice what he just did? He's like, first
thing,
one.
First thing, meatball flight, because it's
Meatball.
flight. It's
Flight.
6 different types of meatballs.
Oh, shut the front door.
and it's offered individually.
Can I get a flight of beer with that?
Sure, why not?
Do you do the flight of beer?
We don't.
Well, okay,
No,
we need
no.
to fix
we're,
that.
We're more Italian. We're more wine. driven,
Okay,
so-
a flight of Italian
Sure.
wines?
Vermouths would be good with that.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
it'll
right.
settle your stomach nice.
I also think it would go with my bourbon, but
There you go.
anyway,
It
I
would.
don't need to
It
interrupt.
would. After that, you get the cavatelli. The cavatelli is our staple, so it's a bolognese sauce, but it's got 2 different sauces. So it's got bolognese and then a sage cream sauce over the top of it, and then we top the whole thing with cheese because you have to, and it's delicious. Pizza, always go classic on my
I'm not
end.
going to leave hungry, I can
No,
hear. Yeah.
I always go the classic route, especially when you want to find out if they know how to make pizza, and we know how to make pizza, so go with the margarita. The Roni is everyone's favorite. It's a pepperoni pizza with hot honey on it. So
Oh,
it's
wow,
delicious.
hot honey
Yeah,
on
it's good.
pepperoni.
And then my favorite thing on the entire menu is the chicken, because it was the first dish I ever learned how to make. Like, actual from start to finish at a restaurant in Connecticut.
Okay, so by the way, I asked you for my first visit. You just
I
went
just
through the
gave it
first
to you, but-
6 visits.
And then get a cannoli, because all we have are the cannolis for desserts. We
Oh,
don't.
you got a
But it's
cannoli.
a build your own cannoli.
Oh, how do I?
So you start with shell, then
Yeah.
you go to two different types of shell, regular or
Wait,
chocolate
wait.
covered.
A cannoli's hard,
Yeah.
right? And
But
so I could pick it, and you guys deep fry it right then?
No. It's they're already made.
Oh, okay.
The shell's already made. So then you have regular or chocolate covered shell.
Okay, all right.
Then you have traditional cannoli cream, or you have Sicilian cannoli cream. So difference is
Didn't know there was a difference, right?
The traditional is it is cow's milk ricotta cheese with sugar and vanilla. And then the other one, the Sicilian, because there's not many cows in Sicily, it's more sheep, is sheep's milk ricotta.
Oh.
And it's got a lot
I
of
bet
lemon.
that's good.
It's got a lot of lemon and orange in it, because lemon and orange come from Sicily.
Oh, wow.
And then you pick your toppings.
on. That is
amazing.
really cool.
My favorite,
Can you tell why his restaurant
yeah,
succeed?
my favorite, regular shell, Sicilian cream, one side pistachios, the other side orange.
I should get a pen right
I'll
this down.
text it to you.
Okay.
That's
Actually,
my
or I
favorite.
could just watch the video.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
All right. Now you know what to do the first time you go to Grana. You've heard it from the designer himself. This is how he thinks you should experience Grana the first time.
Definitely.
All right. I will definitely do that.
Don't fill up on our garlic bread.
Well, so the bread's good. You're
It's
saying.
really good, but it's
Okay.
it's a
Well,
garlic
then don't
bread.
put it on the table.
It's a garlic bread pizza, and you have to order it. So don't order
Dude,
that
if
first.
you put it on the table, I'm going to eat it.
It's good. It's really good.
All right. I'll go light on the garlic
There you go.
bread.
Perfect.
All right. Do you do bruschetta?
We do not.
Was that just not?
No, it's just well, right now we don't have it because it's not in season. Tomatoes aren't in season, so it's also we always stay true to the seasons as well. So you
And-
won't get a caprese salad right now. You'll get it in the summer.
Why do you make sure you stay focused on the season?
It's important, right? I no, it's gonna sound like a dig, but no dig to other chefs. If you're not local, you're being lazy, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you're not gonna buy a butternut squash in the summer. First of all, you're gonna pay 4 times the amount.
Right.
And second of all, it just doesn't taste like a butternut squash anymore.
Right.
It tastes like nothing. It's waterlogged and it's gross. So we try to stay as true as possible to everything. I mean, we support, like White Bull alone supports like 30 local farms.
Wow.
And we just buy everything from that menu. The only thing we don't buy, obviously, from the local farm for that restaurant is like Parmigiano Reggiano or Pecorino. With all due respect, the Americans can make all the cheese they want, but the Italians have been doing it for so long and they just do a great job. So
All right.
we do buy American mozzarella though, which is pretty amazing.
Okay.
New Jersey makes some fantastic mozzarella.
All right. Do you ever go to your DeKalb Farmers Market?
I'll do every once in a while. I don't
Yeah.
really buy anything for the restaurants from there. It's
Yeah.
normally for the
I'm
house.
talking about for personal.
Yeah, for the house for sure. They have a really good tomato passata, which is like a pureed tomato in a jar. That's
Okay.
really, really good. You start my tomato sauce with that.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, there you go. That's good to know. I go there all the time.
Nice.
So, do you ever get a chance to cook in the restaurants?
I do. I'll try to always surprise a chef like once a week where I'm like, hey.
Surprise could turn into shock.
Well, I'm always just like, hey, let me just stretch pies tonight, or hey, let me work pizza station, or let me work pasta station. And I'll just always do that. But a lot of the cooking now is done just more for like social media reasons. So
Right.
Rachel keeps me on my schedule every week, and she's like, make 4 dishes. Okay.
There we go.
And I got to do it.
Rachel is his social media manager who's behind the camera.
Yes.
So, that's
She keeps me in line.
We need those people in our lives,
Absolutely.
without a doubt. So, what's the dream? You're very successful. I cannot believe that you more or less financed the White Bull with credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
You have confidence. You are creative. Where do you take this? What's the next thing?
Well, like we talked about earlier, I just want to own a really badass restaurant group. That's all it really comes down to. And I want to get to a point where, I have 206 employees now, and I want to get to a point where I have, 1,000, 2,000 employees, but every single one of them is living the life that they want to live. And whether that's, whether it's making $100,000 a year or making $17 an hour a year, or $17 an hour, or anything, like, being able to go on vacation. I feel like what the big misconstruity of all the restaurants right now is, you do it and you just burn out and then you move on to the next thing. And we're trying not to do that anymore, right? And we want to make sure that the first thing I ask all my staff, how are you? Before I say, go clean that. And
You
always
worked
have to
for
be
some
that way.
chefs that were not that way, and they ran great restaurants.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest chef I worked for in New York City was Mario Batali, and I didn't work directly with him. I worked for another chef that owned the restaurant as well, and he was hard and he was tough, but he did definitely turn me into the chef I am today.
Okay.
So I can't knock him for it, but I mean, I've seen him throw plates at people, and those days are over for me. I don't do that anymore.
Have you thrown
I
plates?
threw a plate one time, yeah.
Yeah. Did you hit him?
I missed, but I missed on purpose. But he was a friend of mine. We were still
okay.
friends afterwards.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
But it was a seafood restaurant that served no pasta, and he asked me why we didn't have linguine. And I explained
He
to him.
needed a plate thrown
Well,
at him.
I felt like he did, right? I go, we don't have linguine. Where do you see linguine on the menu? And I always start with the disappointed father thing, where I'm like,
Yeah.
really?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And then
That's
then
good. For,
I ended
your
up,
kids are young. That's
yeah.
impressive.
And then I ended with throwing a plate at him.
Oh, my goodness.
I missed on purpose.
I love that. All right. I have so many other questions that I'd love to ask you, but I'm not going to just for the sake of time.
Okay.
We are thrilled that you are coming to Dunwoody, and I cannot wait to come over and experience the menu that you outlined.
Can't wait to have you.
I want you to come back.
Okay.
As things happen in Dunwoody, there's more things going on. I have a feeling that you're going to say, all right, we need to open up here. We're looking at here because there is so much that's going on in our area.
Yep.
And it's astounding how many new restaurants are opening up in the Dunwoody area.
Very
So
cool.
I think you'll really enjoy being in our neighborhood. If you are a Dunwoodian or anywhere else, make sure you check out his other restaurants. I definitely am. I think I would like to make my way down to Decatur. You said that the White Bull is not a restaurant that you want to copy, that it's only going to be the one location down in Decatur. So
It's also, it's the baby, you know?
yeah, and I think that it would be good to go see it for
Yeah, please.
based on what you've shared. So go check out all those restaurants. Pat, I'm so glad you were here. I
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
your time.
Had a blast.
Where do you want people to find you? Where's the best place to go online and such?
So I mean, porchettagroup.com, right? Theporchettagroup.com. All my social
The
handles.
Porchetta Group is Porchetta group.com.
Yeah, and then all my social media. So it's at Chef Pat Pascarella on Instagram, at Chef Pat Pascarella on TikTok, because you have to be cool on TikTok now too.
That's right.
Twitter, I barely use. I just get into arguments on Twitter, so I try to avoid that. And then I'm
Well,
on
that's why you
Facebook,
have
so.
Rachel. Let her go do
I
the
know,
Twitter stuff.
I know. I haven't handed her my personal stuff yet, but I feel like that's coming soon, because I just get into
Keep it
arguments.
personal.
Yeah.
So still do your personal
Yeah, for
stuff
sure.
on there, but yeah, let her manage the comments.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's
The
good.
DMs are the worst.
Well, thanks for being here.
Absolutely,
So
thank you.
appreciate you coming. For all of you, thanks for watching. I am Mark Galvin. This show is produced by Discover Dunwoody. Our producer is Madison Holtz. Our sound technician is Emily Inser-Gibson. And on behalf of the entire Discover Dunwoody team, thanks for watching. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media using our handle at Discover Dunwoody or on our website, discoverdunwoody.com. Until next time, enjoy the day and come discover Dunwoody.